Today on Armchair Operator Guns and Gear Reviews, we're going to do a tabletop review of the venerable Beretta 92X Performance. Let's dive into it.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love.
What's going on, everybody? It's your big homie, the Armchair Operator, and welcome to today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find this little video presentation informative and maybe even a little entertaining. And if you're coming back to the channel, thank you so much for coming back to spend some time with your big homie. I really do appreciate it. So, like I said in the intro, today we're going to do a tabletop review of the Beretta 92X Performance. Now, if you're a veteran of the channel, then you would know that I am a Beretta fanboy. From the Beretta 92FS to the M9 and all of its derivatives, I love Berettas, okay? I've been a fan of Beretta way back from the first Die Hard movie to video games like Resident Evil, the OG Resident Evil 2 and all them. I always wanted a Beretta, and one of the first guns, as a matter of fact, the very first 9mm handgun that I ever bought was a Beretta 92FS. So I love me some Berettas, and I'm very familiar with Beretta. So when I got the opportunity to review the 92X Performance, I had to take it, all right? So, and speaking of that, I want to give a special shout out to my bro, Joker 1016 of Town Armory LLC. Definitely keep an eye out for that name. You're going to be hearing a lot more about that LLC in the near future. So, like I said, just keep your eyes out for that. More information will be coming down the road. But definitely thank you to my bro for providing the firearm for this review. All right. So, what we're going to do, we're going to do like I normally do, like I normally do for y'all. We're going to go on over to the tabletop. We're going to go over its specs, its features and everything. And then we're going to talk about how it handled for me on the shooting range. And then we're just going to close it out. All right, so y'all know the routine. So let's head on over to the tabletop and take a look at the Beretta 92X Performance. Okay, y'all, welcome over to the tabletop, and here we are with the Beretta 92X Performance. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is what we always do, safety first, so we got to verify clear. So as you can see, the chamber is empty, magazine is empty, the firearm is clear, and we are filming in a safe and controlled environment. There isn't any live ammunition anywhere in my review space. So let's talk about this gun real quick. So as you can see, it looks exactly like a garden, or almost like a garden variety Beretta 92 style handgun, with some very noticeable differences. It's not just cosmetic differences as far as the finish, but we have some other differences between this and either your M9 or your standard 92FS. All right, so generally what I usually do, I usually start at the top and I start with the sights. So here are the sights for the Beretta 92X, and this is one of your first differences between this gun and the standard Beretta handgun. So we have a blacked out rear sight and a fiber optic red front sight. The rear sight is adjustable for both windage and elevation, as you can see by the screws there. Okay, now Beretta 92 style handguns, as you know, have an open top slide. And what does that mean? Well, simply means that the barrel itself is exposed, okay? So that's a hallmark of the Beretta style handgun. It's actually a feature that goes way back to even the predecessor of the original 92 series back in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe some other earlier Walther handguns had a similar open top slide design. But anyhow, back to the Beretta. So speaking of the slide, so this slide, well, first of all, this gun is pretty hefty, and I'll actually weigh it in a sec. And one of the reasons for that is this particular gun is designed mainly for competition. So they essentially went back and gave us a steel frame and actually a thicker slide. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me on this, but this slide is very similar to that of the Brigadier style slides that you would see on some of the other 92 handguns. And you could tell because you have like this extra material up here. Now, just for say a point of comparison, I have my M9A4 here with me. So as we're going through the review of the 92X, I'll just want to highlight some differences. So this is my Beretta M9A4. As you can see, I've already did a review on this particular gun. So if you want a more in-depth review, I'll include a link to that video in the pinned comment so you can go ahead and check it out. But let's go ahead and verify clear with this particular gun here. Magazine is empty. As you can see, that chamber is clear. This firearm is clear. All right, so back to the slide. So now you see the differences between the two slides. You see how this slide is noticeably thicker than this one. So that's one of the means that they use to increase the overall weight of the pistol. Now, also, like, look at the beaver tail. So there's also differences in the frame, and you can see this particular gun has a longer beaver tail. I don't know if you can see that. The camera's picking that up. But yeah, this has a thicker and longer beaver tail than your standard M9 or Beretta 92. Okay, and well, while we're on the subject, let's talk about the weight. So as we've already verified that both of these firearms are unloaded, okay? So the unloaded weight with the magazine inserted for my M9A4 is 31.96 ounces. So I'm just going to call that the dry weight, all right? Now we're going to look at the 92X Performance, and its dry weight with the magazine inserted is 48.25 ounces. So that is a considerable difference just in the overall weight of the two pistols. And when you pick this gun up, you will notice the difference right away. Now, let's move on to some of the other features. So this particular gun, it has front and rear slide serrations, but these slide serrations are actually a bit more aggressive than a Garden Variety 92, which I really like because it's a lot easier to do the pinch method. If you want to run the slide back like so, it's easier to grab. So, and I also think that if you're getting this gun to, say, run a match or go into a competition, then having more aggressive slide serrations on the slide is beneficial for you. We also have a Picatinny rail underneath. Now, I did notice something interesting about this particular gun. There's a little undercut right here. I don't know if you can see this. There's a little undercut right here in front of the trigger guard. And also, this gun has a built-in gas pedal. Now, this is also the takedown lever, just like the takedown lever on the standard M9A4. But as you can see, they give you just a little extra ledge, so that way when you're gripping the gun with the support hand, you can drive your thumb forward to keep the muzzle from deviating as you're actuating the trigger. And judging from the looks of this, it looks like it's designed so that you can get your support hand thumb up underneath, come over like so, and drive that thing forward just like that. Okay, now the action type of this gun is actually a double action, single action, which is a hallmark of the Beretta 92 series. Although they are making single action only models as of now, like say the Squalo, for example, this particular gun is double action, single action, which is a bit of a surprise to me because I thought that this gun would be single action only, but it's not. Now, speaking of the action type, as you can see, the gun is currently cocked at the moment because the hammer is back. From what I was able to determine in my testing with my trigger pull gauge, which unfortunately I don't have it with me, so I do apologize for that. But the single action trigger on this gun is usually around 4 pounds, maybe a little bit under, give or take. And the double action pull, I believe, is somewhere in the range of 8 pounds or so. But I will say that the trigger pull is noticeably lighter on this gun than, say, my M9A4. and also of your standard 92 style guns. So let's go ahead and ghost the trigger real fast. All right, so firearm is clear. So we have in a single action mode, that's the take up, and that's the break, and here's the reset. Now that's a very nice, crisp, short reset. So I really like the trigger of this gun. I really do. It's very much target oriented, target competitive shooting oriented. You get the idea. But anyway, let's move on here. So now here's another departure of the 92X Performance. They give you a frame mounted safety, and a lot of people in both the Beretta 92 community and just gun owners in general have been complaining about the slide mounted safeties of the Beretta 92 series for years. And those complaints are not unfounded, because as you're racking the slide with this style, it's very easy to accidentally engage the safety. Now, again, like I said, I have a lot of experience with Berettas, and I have had my moments where I've accidentally put the gun on safe. Now, the good thing about the M9A4, as I noted in my previous review, this is more like the G model. So this is not a safety, this is just a decocker. Now you see how that just drops the hammer safely? That's all that does. So even if I were to rack the slide and for some reason were to accidentally pull it down, it would just drop the hammer safely, and I could still use the firearm if I need to. This particular gun is single action only. So if the gun is on safe, which it is now, trigger doesn't move. Now also similar to your 1911s, check this out. You see that little notch right there? All right, so you hit that safety up, slide doesn't move. So that's really cool. So you can actually carry this Beretta cocked and locked, which is neat. And I don't know if that's legal to do in the competition circuit with a double action, single action gun. All you competition shooters out there could tell me a lot better. I don't know. But I mean, I just would imagine that if you could, being so that you could carry this thing safely cocked and locked is a pretty big deal on that. All right, so we're going to move on here. The slide stop is also a little different than that of your standard Beretta 92 or your M9. So take a look at the slide stop on the M9 here, right? So you see that? And this is angled just a bit. So I would imagine just to allow you to easily drop the slide on the 92 with your support hand, just a little easier than that of, say, of something like this. Okay. Now, and we have our grip panels. So the grip panels of this are removable, just like on your standard Berettas. You take these screws out, take those screws out. Probably got to lift the safety up so that it can clear, and then you can just take the panels off. I don't have all the accessories that came with this particular gun, but I believe that this gun comes with the straight panels like this, and it also comes with wraparound panels like this, just like the M9A4. So it would give you that bit of an extra bump on the back if you like that extra length of pull with larger hands. Personally, that's one of the things that I put on my Berettas right from the gate, because it's just more comfortable for me to run the pistol that way. But this is perfectly fine, and for those with smaller hands, you're probably going to want to use these. Now, this brings me to my first criticism of the 92X. The texture on these panels is not very aggressive at all. And to be honest, the all steel construction of the frame kind of makes this gun feel a little slick in my hands, if I'm honest. So if my hands are wet, for whatever the case may be, I could see myself having issues maintaining a good solid shooting grip on the gun. I mean, it's well textured, don't get me wrong. It is well textured on the front strap and the back strap. But I'm not a big fan of these grip panels. Now, the good thing about the grip panels is that they do have aftermarket panels available. I believe Lock Grips have some. You might be able to find some old school wraparound hose grips that you could put on here. That's what I did with my first Beretta 92 FS back in the day. I threw hose grips on it and called it a day. Now, truth be told, the M9A4 grip panels, even the standard ones, are far more aggressive. Why Beretta didn't use something like this on a gun that's oriented for competition is beyond me. But this is what you get, okay? And for the most part, that's basically it as far as the main features of the pistol goes. We got a standard 4.9-inch barrel here, you know what I mean? This is not the optics ready model. So this particular gun, I believe, I'm not exactly sure when this came out, but this is kind of like the carry optics version without the optics cut, if that makes any sense. So if you look on Beretta's website now, they have the 92X Defender, which is basically a non-optics ready gun without a rail. And then you have the carry optics version that has both the rail and its optics cut. All right, so I just wanted to put that out there. And also, the gun comes with 3 15-round magazines, as you can see here. This particular magazine body, I could tell it could easily accommodate 18 rounds, but they dimpled it to 15. But you do have an option of getting a 10-round version and a 15-round version from my compliance states, or the actual full 18-round version, just like all the rest of their 92 lines, including the M9A4 and so on and so forth. All right, so that's basically it as far as the features of the gun itself. So let's move on to the range portion of the video. All right, y'all, real quick, I want to show you something real fast. So the recoil spring in the 92X Performance is a little, well, the recoil system is different than that of your garden variety M9. So since I can't show you the disassembly of the two handguns on YouTube, I just used a little bit of magic to take care of that off camera. So without further ado, let's take a look at the recoil spring and guide rod for... First, let's look at your standard garden variety Beretta. All right, so this is the one out of my M9A4. This recoil guide rod here is polymer, just like most standard 92 style pistols is polymer, and that's the spring. Okay, now for the 92X, we got ourselves a heavy, I believe this is either a tungsten or steel guide rod. And we have the recoil spring. This is actually a lighter recoil spring. I'm not exactly sure of what the weight of this spring is, but I do know just from racking the slide that it is noticeably softer. And as you can see, this recoil spring is actually longer than the recoil spring in the M9A4. Okay, so I just want to highlight those differences really quick. And this is the recoil guide rod from the M92X, and this is the one out of the M9. So I just wanted to show those to y'all real quick. And now on to the range stuff. All right, so on the range, when I held this pistol in my hand for the first time on that firing line, I already knew that it was going to be a soft shooter. Just the weight of the gun, the feel of the gun in your hand. Before I even broke my first shot, I already knew that this was going to be an enjoyable ride. And when I did it from double action, actually no, I started off with single action, but either way, that first shot was beautiful, man. And one of the things that I always enjoyed about the Beretta M9 or the Beretta 92 series as a whole is just the basic ergonomics of the gun. And the 92X Performance takes that up a bit with the gas pedal and the actual feel of the gun. Now granted, yes, I still criticize the grips. The grips themselves could have grippier texture, and I think that if the texture was a bit more aggressive with the grip panels, it would have just been better. But even with all of that, I didn't have a hard time maintaining solid control of the firearm. And I attribute that a lot to the weight of the pistol and that awesome double action, single action trigger. Now, as far as double action, single action triggers go, in my experience, that's the best one that I've used. I know I've heard people say that the Shadow 2 has a better double action, single action trigger. I'm going to have to confirm that with myself. At one day, I'm going to get a Shadow 2. I promise I'm going to get a Shadow 2, and y'all going to see it here at some point. I don't know when, but you will. So, you know, keep watching these videos and liking and subscribing so that way I can get myself to the point to get that thing on the channel for y'all, for your enjoyment. But anyway, back to the 92X. So, like I said, it is definitely a competition-oriented gun. Keeping the pistol shoots flat, and it's just very easy to keep the sights on target. And the lighter trigger and that crisp reset also makes it a lot easier to not disturb the muzzle when you're pulling the trigger, even with the double action. Now, I will say, just to kind of go into more so a moment to talk about like not trigger discipline. What's the word I'm for? Like, just a little tidbit as far as pulling the trigger and doing it well. Okay, I can't think of the words right now. I apologize. So it's good to practice doing, you know, trigger manipulation or with your dry fire with a double action trigger, because of the fact that the trigger is so heavy. If you can consistently pull a heavy double action trigger without disturbing the muzzle, you will be that much better at pulling back a single action trigger or even a striker fire trigger, because you're already following the same mechanics, and because it's a lighter trigger, it's going to be a lot easier for you to not deviate the muzzle when you're squeezing the trigger. So I just wanted to throw that out there for what it's worth. Okay, now one thing that I will say also, and it should go without saying, that of course the 92X Performance is compatible with other Beretta M9 magazines, as well as the aftermarket Metgar magazines. And as I always tell people, the Metgar M9 mags are probably some of the best that are out there. I 10 out of 10 recommend getting your hands on Metgar magazines for your Beretta handgun. Definitely do that. And I mean, all in all, the pistol shot well. I put about 150 rounds through the gun. I didn't have any issues, any bobbles, any stovepipes, failure to feeds, any of that. I mean, it ran well, and I mean, the gun is based on a very reliable platform for the most part. Now, I know some people are going to say, yeah, but Armchair, the M9s had crappy magazines from back in the day. Yes, I'm fully aware of the issues with the M9 magazines from back in the day, but we're not talking about the magazines, talking about the actual functioning of the firearm. So, it's a reliable gun for the most part. Of course, if you get crap in it or something like that, then, you know, the reliability is going to go down. But you can say that with almost any other gun on the market. So anyway, the point is, the gun is reliable, it runs well, it shoots well, and it's a damn fine firearm. So in closing, what I will say about the Beretta 92X Performance, it is definitely I think it's a good target shooting gun. I think it's a good competition gun. It's not a cheap gun. I believe the Carry Optics model MSRP is around $1,700. So it's not a cheap gun. But then again, Beretta guns aren't cheap anyway. But it's not a cheap gun. Now, would I pick this over a Shadow 2? The Shadow 2 comes in at a much lower price point. And honestly, I can't really answer that because I haven't operated a Shadow 2 as of yet, so I don't know. But for those of you who have, let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Because the Shadow 2 comes in, like, you could actually get a Shadow 2 for sub $1,000 now. And I've seen them at that price point over the last few months. Whereas a 92X, even brand new, like I said, it's almost $200 MSRP. Of course, most places you might be able to get it for like around $1,400 to $1,500 depending on where you see it. But of course, the prices will vary depending on where you are. But let me know down in the comments, what would you rather pick? Would you rather pick the Shadow 2 or would you rather pick the 92X? Personally, I love the Beretta 92X, and I will absolutely be adding a 92X to my collection. So there you go. But anyway, y'all, definitely let me know what you thought about the video down in the comments. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content. Share the video. It helps me out. Every little bit helps me out. So I really do appreciate that. And as always, I appreciate you all for taking the time to watch this video today. So thank you so much for watching, y'all. This is your big homie, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.